Welcome to my channel. Subscribe, listen, and enjoy my stories every day. On a typical Monday morning, the sun was barely peeking through the blinds of my office, casting long shadows over the paperwork scattered across my desk. As the manager of a bustling marketing firm, my days usually began with emails, proposals, and a strong cup of coffee, never without its urgent bitterness. Today was no different, or so I thought as I settled behind my computer, flipping open the screen to a barrage of notifications. Among them, a minimized window caught my eye, a chat platform I didn't recognize but one that was logged in under my wife, Jenna's, user ID. Puzzled, I hovered over it. Jenna, also my deputy, had asked for my technical help several times this week due to some glitches she'd been experiencing with her reports. Clicking on the chat icon, I expected to find a stream of messages about work schedules or project updates. Instead, my heart sank as the window expanded to reveal not texts, but images, jarring and unmistakable. There she was, Jenna, captured in a series of photos that were anything but professional. The last file, apparently just sent, was named Final Schedule, but it was no Gantt chart. My initial shock gave way to a cold, creeping dread. The photos didn't leave room for doubt, they were intimate, meant for someone who wasn't me. I sat there, frozen, the hum of the office fading into a muffled echo as the betrayal sank its teeth in. My wife, my best employee, sharing parts of herself that were supposed to be reserved for the sanctity of our marriage. Fueled by a mix of betrayal and outrage, I scrolled through the chat history. The messages were sparse, but each one was like a blade, short, cutting exchanges punctuated with rendezvous times and coy emojis. The other party was using a pseudonym, but whoever it was knew Jenna very intimately. The shock morphed swiftly into anger. How long had this been going on under my very nose? At our workplace, in the spaces where we made decisions not just about business but about our life together? My mind raced with the implications, our home, our shared dreams, all tainted by the deception hidden in plain sight. I knew then what I needed to do. Jenna had made her choice, and I would make mine. As the office buzzed around me, unaware of the storm brewing in the corner office, I plotted my next steps. This wasn't just about confronting Jenna, it was about reclaiming my life and my dignity. The love and trust one had extended were squandered, and in its place, a plan for retribution began to take root. By noon, I had everything arranged. I secured an appointment with a lawyer for the very next day and drafted an email to Jenna, asking her to meet me at our favorite cafe after work, a place that once symbolized our shared successes and dreams. As I walked to the cafe that evening, the crisp air did little to soothe my seething thoughts. Jenna arrived, looking as composed as ever, unaware of the storm she was about to walk into. We ordered coffee, the same we had shared countless times, but today, the bitterness was more than just a flavor. Jenna, I began, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside. I saw the chat on your computer today. Those photos, I paused, gauging her reaction. Her face paled, a mix of surprise and fear flitting across her features as she realized the gravity of her mistake. I can explain, she stammered, but I raised my hand to stop her. No need. You've made your choices, and now I've made mine. We're done, Jenna. I'll be filing for divorce. The conversation that followed was a blur of denials and pleas, but my decision was irrevocable. As I walked away from the cafe, leaving Jenna to grapple with the ruins of her deception, I felt the weight of my wedding ring, a symbol of promises broken and trust shattered. The road ahead would be difficult, but as I stepped into the solitude of my car, the first chapter of my new life began to write itself, driven by a resolve to never look back. The day after the confrontation felt surreal, as if the world had tilted on its axis. As I walked into the office, the familiar spaces now bore an air of strangeness. The whispers among the staff, usually light and easy, seemed sharper, laced with an unspoken tension that mirrored the storm raging within me. Jenna was not at her desk when I arrived, which was unusual. Her absence cast a shadow that felt both ominous and relieving. Sitting at my desk, I tried to focus on the mundane tasks at hand, but my mind was a battlefield of hurt and strategies for the impending legal and personal battles. The phone rang, slicing through the morning murkiness. It was the lawyer, confirming our appointment for later that day. As I hung up, the door to my office swung open, and Jenna walked in, her presence like a dark cloud. "Can we talk?" she asked, her voice a mixture of defiance and desperation. Her eyes were red-rimmed, yet her posture was all business. "Not here," I responded curtly. "Outside." We moved to a secluded part of the building's garden, a spot once favored for casual meetings and lunch breaks, now the stage for a more somber dialogue. "Look, I know you're upset," Jenna began, her hands fidgeting nervously. "I made a mistake, a terrible one. But we can fix this. We've been through so much together." "This wasn't just a mistake, Jenna. It was a choice. Multiple choices." My voice was calm but cold, the hurt manifesting as a detached iciness. "I know, and I'm sorry," she pleaded. "It was just. I felt neglected, invisible. You were always so caught up in work. And that justifies betrayal?" I countered sharply. "If you felt that way, you should have talked to me, not done this." Jenna took a deep breath, trying to compose herself. "What do you want from me now?" "I want you to resign. Today." The words felt foreign yet necessary, a line drawn that marked the end of not just our marriage but our professional ties. "Resign?" Her voice cracked. "Is there no room for us to work this out? Not even professionally?" "No. There's too much at stake, and I can't trust you, not like before. It's better for both of us if we part ways completely." Jenna nodded slowly, the finality of the situation sinking in. "I'll clear out my desk today," she murmured. "And I'll be at the lawyer's this afternoon to start the divorce proceedings." As Jenna walked away, her figure retreating into the building, the sense of an ending was palpable. But it was also the beginning of something else, a process of rebuilding and retribution. Back in my office, I began sifting through our joint projects, separating her contributions from mine. Each file felt like a piece of the life we had shared, now tainted and painful to touch. The next steps were clear but daunting. There was much to untangle, both legally and emotionally. The rest of the day passed in a blur of paperwork and whispered conversations. By the time I left the office, the sky had turned a bruised purple, reflecting the turmoil of my inner landscape. At the lawyer's office, the reality of the situation settled around me like a heavy cloak. "Everything will be handled discreetly and efficiently," the lawyer assured me, outlining the steps we would take to ensure a clean break. As I drove home, the empty house awaiting me felt both a sanctuary and a prison. The silence was a stark contrast to the chaos of the past days. That night, as I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, the shadows seemed to whisper of betrayal, but also of the possibility of a future unmarred by deceit. The office had never felt more cavernous and echoic as it did the following day. Jenna's desk stood empty, her resignation letter a stark finality among the usual clutter of marketing drafts and client files. The absence of her bustling energy was a reminder of the rift now cleaving through both my professional and personal life. As I settled into the rhythm of the morning, the door to my office swung open without a knock. It was Marlene, our head of HR, a stack of papers clutched in her hand and concern etched on her face. "We need to talk about Jenna's replacement. Also, there are rumors swirling around," Marlene trailed off, her eyes probing for how much I was willing to divulge. "I'm aware of the rumors," I replied, cutting off the brewing storm of gossip. "What's happened has happened. Right now, I need to focus on keeping the team stable and moving forward." Marlene nodded, placing the papers on my desk. "Of course. I've outlined a few candidates who could step into Jenna's role. And, if it's okay with you, I want to address the team this afternoon to quash any disruptive chatter." Make it happen, I agreed, eager to regain some semblance of control over the spiraling narrative of my personal saga seeping into professional grounds. The day progressed with a relentless pace, filled with meetings and decision-making that left little room for the whispers of betrayal to seep into the gaps. Yet, the real test came as the clock neared the hour for the team meeting. Gathering in the conference room, the air thick with unspoken questions, I stood at the head of the table, Marlene at my side, ready to steer the narrative. Team, I began, my voice steadied despite the undercurrent of personal pain. As you might be aware, Jenna is no longer with the company. I want to assure everyone that this decision is in the best interest of our team and our projects. Murmurs of curiosity and shock bubbled under the surface as I continued. We're here to work, and I expect each one of you to respect the privacy of all parties involved and focus on your responsibilities. Gossip will not be tolerated. Marlene took over, outlining the qualities we expected in Jenna's replacement and how the transition would be handled. The meeting ended with a clatter of chairs and a chorus of subdued acknowledgments. Later that evening, back in the solitude of my home, the silence was a stark contrast to the day's forced composure. My phone buzzed, a message from an unknown number. Hesitant, I opened it to find a message that chilled me to the bone. You don't know the whole story. Meet me tomorrow. The park bench near your office at noon. A friend. The message sparked a flare of intrigue and suspicion. Who was this, and what did they know? The possibilities spun through my mind, each more unsettling than the last. Deciding that the potential information was too critical to ignore, I responded with a simple, "I'll be there." The next day, under the gray sweep of the sky, I approached the designated bench, my senses sharpened. A figure cloaked in a nondescript jacket and cap sat waiting, their face obscured. As I sat, the figure turned slightly, just enough to be recognized. It was Eric, one of our freelance graphic designers, often brought in by Jenna for specialized projects. "Eric, what's this about?" I demanded, my voice a mix of annoyance and urgency. "It's about Jenna," Eric replied, his voice low. "There's more going on than just the photos. It wasn't just a fling or whatever you think happened." The air between us charged with tension. I leaned forward. "What are you saying?" Eric hesitated, then spoke, each word deliberate. "Jenna was being blackmailed. I found out because I got pulled into it too, unwittingly." The revelation hit like a physical blow. Blackmail? Jenna? How? Why didn't she come to me? The questions poured out, each tinged with betrayal and confusion. Eric shook his head, a gesture of helplessness. "I don't know all the details. But she was scared, man. Scared of losing you, her job, everything." The conversation that followed unraveled a tapestry of secrets that went deeper than simple infidelity. As I left the park, the weight of the revelation sat heavy on my shoulders. Jenna's actions, though inexcusable, were now painted in shades of coercion and fear, complicating the narrative of betrayal with darker, more dangerous undertones. The drive for retribution was now tinged with a quest for truth. As the city lights blurred past, the road ahead promised more than just a personal vendetta. It beckoned a journey into a web of deceit that perhaps neither Jenna nor I could have anticipated. The days following my conversation with Eric were a tempest of clandestine meetings and discreet investigations. The more I delved into the alleged blackmail, the murkier the waters became. With each layer peeled back, my resolve to expose the truth and mete out retribution hardened like steel. I hired a private investigator, not trusting anyone within the company or Jenna's circle. Slowly, the pieces began to fit together, revealing a conspiracy far more elaborate and sinister than simple marital infidelity. It was late one evening when I received a call from the investigator, his voice tinged with urgency. "I have something you need to see. Can you meet now?" Within the hour, I was sitting across from him in a dimly lit parking lot, the glow from his laptop illuminating the stark reality of betrayal. He showed me emails and encrypted messages between Jenna and a figure known only as the puppeteer. The content was damning, detailing exchanges of money for the staged intimate photos meant to trap Jenna into leaking sensitive company information. This goes beyond personal. It's corporate espionage, the investigator concluded, closing his laptop with a snap that echoed in the confines of the car. The revelation that Jenna had been manipulated into betraying not only our marriage but also the company filled me with a cold, calculating rage. The puppeteer, whose identity was still a mystery, had orchestrated a perfect storm of blackmail and betrayal. Armed with this information, I confronted Jenna at her new apartment, the fury and betrayal coiling within me like a spring. She opened the door, surprise morphing into fear as she took in my grim expression. "Jenna, we need to talk." "Now," I said, my voice low, pushing past her into the living room. "What's this about?" Jenna's voice trembled, a vase of flowers trembling in her shaking hand. "It's about your puppeteer," I said, throwing a folder of printed emails onto the coffee table. "Care to explain this?" Jenna paled, her eyes darting to the folder before meeting mine. I was forced into this. I didn't want to hurt you or the company. "But you did," I interjected coldly. "You allowed them to use you against me, against us." I was scared. Jenna's outcry filled the room, her facade crumbling. "They threatened to expose our personal photos if I didn't comply. I thought I could handle it. By betraying everything." My voice was a whip, each word lashing out. With the truth laid bare between us, the final steps of my plan unfolded. "Jenna, your actions have consequences. And now, you face them alone." Leaving Jenna to her turmoil, I contacted the authorities and provided all the evidence of the blackmail and corporate espionage. The puppeteer was eventually unmasked, a rival company executive aiming to dismantle our operations from the inside out. As the scandal hit the news, Jenna's role became public, her reputation irreparably tarnished. Meanwhile, I watched from afar, my revenge not just exacted but executed with a precision that left no room for her redemption. The divorce proceedings were swift, and the last time I saw Jenna, she was a shadow of the woman I had married, her spirit broken by the weight of her choices and the consequences that followed. In the end, the office and my life returned to a semblance of normalcy, but the scars remained, a constant reminder of betrayal. Jenna moved away, a mere footnote in the company's storied history, and I remained, my resolve forged in the fires of deception and retribution. As I sat in my office, looking out over the cityscape, I realized that the price of uncovering the truth was a solitude that mirrored the expanse before me, vast, unyielding, and irrevocably altered. In the ruins of betrayal, the silence spoke louder than the chaos had ever done, the echoes of retribution shaping a future built on the ashes of the past.